Let's to get some facts with Claire Pearsall now. You'll know her well. She's on the show regularly. Former Home Office Special Advisor to former Immigration Minister Caroline Noakes, and she joins us right now. Good afternoon to you, Claire.
Hi, good afternoon.
Hello. Thank you very much for joining us. Right, well, there's lots to talk about when it comes to migration today. Loads of news. Let's just reiterate. So Britain has removed the first failed asylum seeker to Rwanda, as in this is the first time that anyone's been moved not just to Rwanda but to a third country, as opposed to could you go back home to whichever country you arrived from. But they've been paid £3,000 to do it. They got on a plane voluntarily on Monday night all the way to Kigali, the capital of Rwanda. We're paying them not only £3,000 of your and my taxpayers' money and our audiences, placed on a commercial flight, but we're going to be paying the Rwandan government to provide them with room and lodgings and look after their upkeep for the next 5 years as well. Now, it's probably not as expensive as keeping them in the UK. However, a lot of people will say, well, no one's paying for my food and lodging for the next 5 years. Why are we doing that? I mean, there's also want to talk about the detainees of the forced Rwanda scheme in a moment. But just in terms of this voluntary removal, what's your reaction?
Well, none of it's a surprise. It's really cynical timing in the week on the run-up to some elections that are happening in the United Kingdom. It just seems quite convenient. But also, if we look back at the data, up until the end of September of 2023, there were just over 17,000 voluntary or assisted removals from the United Kingdom back to other countries. So it's not a new phenomenon. What is new is the fact that we are giving our hard-earned cash to somebody to put in their pockets, so when they get there, they don't have to pay board and lodgings. Yeah. They've got a nice house. They've also got a substantial amount of money for the country that they're going to.
I imagine £3,000 go along with the significance here. It's not someone from Afghanistan being sent back to Afghanistan or Somalia going back to Somalia. This is about someone from another African nation, we understand, being sent to a third nation, to Rwanda, and specifically to Rwanda, a country we've been told by so many of the great and the good, it's not a safe country and no one would want to go there. You'd have to be basically dragging people onto planes. Well, this guy didn't have to be dragged onto the plane.
No, he didn't. But it's also important to point out that it's not quite the win the government were insisting. No. This individual didn't arrive by boat. He had arrived here. He had lodged his asylum claim. He was deemed inadmissible. He is from another African nation. So he's going back. So, you know what, for him, this is a real win. Yeah. He's gone back to a nation that he understands. He's gone back there with some money in his pocket and he can set up a new life. And that's fantastic.
Well, I don't think fantastic for him, but quite expensive for us. But as you say, look, when the story first emerged last night, it was very much billed as like first Rwanda deported. Yeah. Well, not really, not under the scheme we've got. But let's talk about the Home Office announcing today the first phase of detentions is underway for Rwanda. They call them relocations. This is basically the first illegal migrants who are set to be removed to Rwanda have now been detained. Now, these are people who've arrived, I think, from late 2021 to 2022. Any more recent arrivals won't be sent to Rwanda. They haven't even got to them yet. No one's even processing a load of these cases yet. But this is the start. And there have, of course, been reports, and we talked about them earlier this week, that actually, you know, a lot of people who were not locatable. Now, we spoke to Kevin Saunders, former, senior figure in the border force, and he said, actually, you know, when they say they can't locate, you know, more than half of the people they've flagged, the 5,700 they've flagged to be sent to Rwanda, that means they haven't really been trying to. They don't need to know where they are at this current time. They're not on the list. But at the same time, Ireland's saying there's a whole load of people arriving on the land border there with Northern Ireland who are saying, well, we've only come from the UK because we think we might be sent to Rwanda. Is this a scheme that is, as you can see at the current time, at 10 minutes past 12 in the morning, in the afternoon today, is this a scheme that's working, Claire?
I think it's a little bit too soon to say it's working. And I think the line from the Home Office has been that the 2,000 people they couldn't locate were temporarily lost. Well, that doesn't fill you with confidence, does it? Because it still contains the word lost. And some of those could indeed have ended up across the border from Northern Ireland into Ireland. But the figures also coming out of Ireland seem to be anecdotal rather than evidential.
Well, it was a government minister giving evidence in Parliament, and she was very clear that, and there's been a BBC verified, so it must be true, that 80% of those who are seeking asylum in the country now, the new arrivals, are not doing it at a port or an airport. They wouldn't be able to get through the port or airport. They're doing it in Dublin, in the centre of the city, and they're doing it having arrived. They can only have arrived on a land border, and that would mean with Northern Ireland. And they are saying we're coming because we don't want to be deported to Rwanda.
Yeah, and you can see this, and you can see that this is going to cause some real angst from Ireland itself. We have got the Irish Supreme Court, who are now looking to overturn the judgment that the United Kingdom is not a safe third country. They deemed it not to be safe because of the Rwanda plan. Now this is happening in reverse. They've got to deem the UK as a safe place. So we're going to have this enormous standoff. Rishi Sunak, for once, is standing up for his own policy by saying we're not going to entertain any returns because of the fact that the EU won't take them back into France from us, so we're not going to take them from Ireland. So you've got this most enormous standoff. Now, whether this is going to be a deterrent remains to be seen. There was another boat that arrived in last night carrying migrants into Dover. It isn't stopping the boats. But you can see all it's doing is spreading around this problem. And you can see that you press down on one area, it's going to pop up somewhere else.
That's the interesting thing. And the point being made also that Rishi Sunak's pledge wasn't, I'll put someone on a plane to Rwanda. The pledge was, I'll stop the boats. And it actually has to have that impact. Look, you worked in the Home Office. And goodness me, not a day goes by and we're not slagging off the Home Office for its utter incompetence and absolute failure to do any of the jobs it's supposed to do. And you must agree there are issues there. We know that. But what actually happens where, they can say that we don't know where detainees are now, or yes, we're just going to pay someone $3,000 to get on a plane. And presumably, ministers okay this because, again, quite coincidental timing. This story comes out the day before local elections. Come on. And even that this issue is being pushed massively, again, ahead of the general election. We know that. We're not, again, they must think voters are idiots. But what is actually happening in the heart of the Home Office where these things take so long, they cost so much, we can't get an agreement with France, we've now fallen out with Ireland. What's going on?
Yeah. Oh, well, if I knew that, I'd be able to go in there and fix it. But the problem is that you've got not enough people working in things like immigration enforcement. So if people go missing when they haven't signed on and they haven't registered, that should normally trigger somebody to go look for them, especially if it's been more than once. But we don't have enough people to go and do that. And there's also the problem with detention. You can't detain somebody indefinitely unless you have a reasonable view of removal within a reasonable period of time.
Which we don't.
There's some weasel wording around that. So you can't detain people indefinitely, and you can't detain pregnant women for any longer than 72 hours. So where do you put them if you need to lock them up? There's that problem. You don't have the capacity. But it goes back to the very basic thing of processing people. You need to be able to process them. You need to be able to return them to a country if they are not admissible to the United Kingdom. And that's the one thing the government hasn't done, is set up those agreements to be able to return people whence they came.
Yeah, and that's the thing. But then we're told, we were able to do it with Albania, that it was OK when we were in the EU. But of course, you and I know perfectly well that actually the number of people we stopped, we basically plummeted. The people who were actually returning to the country of origin plummeted long years before we actually exited the European Union. So something else was going on there as well. Do you think that it is going to be possible, given that the Irish are now up in arms about the people arriving there from here because of the Rwanda policy, that the Irish might be able to persuade Emmanuel Macron to accept people back? Because, so many people are saying that the best way of stopping the people smugglers is there's basically someone pays $3,000, whatever it is, we told 1,500. The price mechanism works very well on Calais beaches, that you pay someone a load of money and then you end up back on the same beach within a few hours because you're just shipped straight back to that beach. That would break that model straight away, and those migrants probably wouldn't even be heading to France in the first place because they wouldn't have a chance of getting on a boat from Calais. Do you think there's any chance at all that the Irish might be able to persuade the French to start seeing sense on that?
It would be nice, wouldn't it? But I suspect the answer there is no. If you were Macron, would you want to turn down the money that the United Kingdom is already giving in order to help protect the beach?
A couple of $100 million, a few $100 million, it's change down the back of the sofa.
Do you think that's pocket change in order to take back a load of migrants, which are going to cost his country politically and financially much more than that? Yeah. I also don't think that Macron is really in the mood to go and speak with the Irish on behalf half of the United Kingdom who he's fallen out with. So at the moment, he's just going to sit there and do the Gallic shrug of his shoulders in the same way that Rishi Sunak is standing up and saying, no, thank you, we're not going to do it.
Wise words. Claire Pearsall, always so good to talk to you, former Special Advisor to an Immigration Minister in the Home Office. Thank you very much, Steve.